Good morning, everyone. We are so excited to have you here today, and a special welcome to our veterans today on today's Veterans Day. Today, we are going to be talking about how we can double down on Dallas ISD, which we are all so excited to be doing. So to get us started, I first will walk through our agenda for today. I'm Carol Golia, President of United to Learn, and we are honored to be co-hosting today's discussion with the Dallas Regional Chamber. Drex will give us the official welcome from the Chamber, followed by Abby Williams from United to Learn, and then we'll have a discussion with Miguel Solis, Principal Doug Burak, as well as Dan Healy, CEO of Civitas. And then we will open it up for Q&A. So please use your chat throughout this discussion to give us questions, and then we will be using that for the second half of our discussion. And then we will be closed out today by Megan Hewitt with United to Learn. So let's get started. Drex?
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. I am Drexell Owusu, and I have the privilege of leading the Education and Workforce team at the Dallas Regional Chamber. We're thrilled to co-host this event today with our friends and partners at United to Learn as an extension of a theme that we began last fall and which has really started to gain momentum recently. And that theme is really focused on the expansion of business engagement in our schools. Yesterday, we hosted our State of the Workforce virtual event where we announced a new effort called Dallas Thrives, with the bold goal of doubling living wage attainment for young adults and equitably eliminating racial gaps in a single generation. A key element of this work is really focused on employer investment, significantly increasing the number of employers who actively engage in strengthening our local talent pool. Which brings us to why we're all here today. So thank you for your willingness and interest in learning how you and your companies can get involved. We know that Dallas is at the top of a lot of really great business rankings, but unfortunately, we're also at the bottom of a lot of lists on child poverty and inequity. And we know that people on this call today really want to change that. We want to get every business that we can in the region plugged in a way that works for you, for your business, for your people, and also that helps propel our schools forward. So we want to introduce you to our partners who can really help you do that in a really great way. I want to introduce Abby Williams, who's a true champion for education and a person I consider a friend. As the founder and CEO of United to Learn, she's created an organization that is uniquely able to mobilize volunteers to work with Dallas ISD in a streamlined and strategic way. In fact, next week, United to Learn is going to be recognized by the school district as with the Leading the Charge Award for outstanding support of Dallas ISD. Since 2012, United to Learn has been an unwavering supporter of 24 schools, and starting this year, Dallas ISD is asking them to take on even more, expanding to almost 50. Their model is about mobilizing the community around schools, so they need all of our help. Before Abby created United to Learn, she worked for Goldman Sachs. So I also know that she understands the values that business creates and appreciates the importance of driving data-driven impact. Honestly, I can't say enough wonderful things about Abby, so I'm just going to turn it over to her now. Abby.
Thank you, Drex, and thank you so much for co-hosting this morning's event with us. We could not be more excited than to share out this opportunity to partner in our schools along with the Dallas Regional Chamber. So to all of you friends, and thank you for joining us this morning. I hope you have a cup of Java next to you. As you think about partnering with us, especially in this current climate, I just wanted to touch just a second on our founding. And, you know, the reality is that United to Learn was founded in the uncomfortable reality of what the founding team saw as systemic inequities were playing out in our own backyard. So for anyone who doesn't know me, I actually grew up a lot like a lot of our Dallas ISD students. I was very poor, but very proud, the product of a Mexican family and a lot of very strong women. So After returning back to Dallas from New York and living a life, quite honestly, of adult life of privilege, I was getting to make choices for the children that Todd and I had that just didn't seem accessible to everybody around me, and maybe not even to my mom, right, when I had been younger. I think there were other members of the founding team of United to Learn who were just struggling with the absolute pockets of success that they felt in their own nonprofit work, but that wasn't playing out on a large enough scale to make real difference. And then I think that there was just that stark contrast of driving around our schools and our city and recognizing the stark differences in the physical assets of so many of those schools. I know that so many of you are also aware that these disparities were playing out and continue to play out in college attainment, where today our Latinx and Black peers are earning a college attainment at 1/3 and 2/3 of the rate of their white peers. And I saw that and thought, wow, could that have been me? Should that have been me? And then within United to Learn, we see that same equally alarming statistic play out in our 3rd grade literacy scores, which is, of course, where we are absolutely focused on a daily basis. So, limited school funding notwithstanding, we knew as this founding team that we wanted to be more a part of the journey of our schools and the progress being made. And Dallas ISD was doing a fantastic job of setting priorities. So we felt like if we could align with the vision on each campus, something new might happen. Because, by changing the conversation to a real discourse among equals, lifting up the assets of our public school families and educators, together, we would all find a way to reset the trajectory of achievement. And I'm going to show you in this video a little bit of what we've built.
Dallas ISD is the 2nd largest district in the state of Texas and the 14th largest in the United States. Our primary function is making sure that kids get a high-quality teacher, a high-quality principal, curriculum that will challenge them, and finding partners that will work with us to do the things that we're just not equipped to do. We rely on organizations like United to Learn to do the things that we simply can't do.
United to Learn is an education nonprofit with a proven model for uniting and mobilizing our community. We have the pleasure of working with 47 Dallas ISD elementary schools, which educate 26,100 students and are educated by over 2,100 educators. Together with them, United to Learn is blessed to work with countless businesses, private schools, and individuals. In order to develop our very unique program model, United to Learn brought together every constituent who might be involved. Dallas ISD leaders, campus principals and counselors, private school community engagement directors, as well as our philanthropists and outside education experts. And together we created a 4-pillared system. These are research-driven and aligned with the vision of achievement at Dallas ISD. We begin with a foundation of social and emotional health, understanding the science behind trauma and toxic stress, and then understanding how building empathetic adult-student relationships would truly support student learning. With that, we turned to our learning environments. We want to make sure that students and teachers are resourced with the tools that they need, while also being surrounded by an environment that is aspirational, where students could see themselves achieving and dreaming. The 3rd pillar of our work is all about literacy achievement and ensuring that students are on pace in 3rd grade so they are 3 times more likely to go on to college. Then finally, our 4th pillar is about community activation, making sure that everyone who is involved in our work understands the science and the research behind our model and how they can be empowered to be a part of it going forward.
The biggest difference with United to Learn versus any other partnership that I've been a part of, they're asking the principals, what do you need? So it's not a one-size-fits-all. It is what do you need to ensure that your students are successful, and what do your teachers need to ensure that they are successful?
We're excited about partnering with United to Learn to help close some of the opportunity gaps that we see around the district. Those gaps are significant. Until we figure out how to do that at a systemic level, it's incumbent upon organizations like ours and our community and organizations like United to Learn to help fill those gaps.
United to Learn encompasses everything on our campus. They help families by providing resources during the tornado. They were so much help. They provided notebooks, materials, food. They make us feel appreciated, and they give us resources to be a better teacher and also help our families. They are just such a gift to us.
As an independent school head who also happens to serve as the chair of Unite to Learn board, I can speak to how important it is that the students that we serve understand their responsibility to the broader Metroplex. And a great way for them to get familiar with their power to drive change is through the United to Learn model.
United to Learn provides us with an opportunity to directly connect to students and schools within Dallas. They already have processes in place, volunteer activities in place, and really a platform for Atmos Energy to come right alongside of them and support the initiatives that they have for our students and the community.
If you're looking for an opportunity for corporate engagement, an opportunity to give back, come partner with Dallas ISD and United to Learn. It'll be a great opportunity for your employees to bond together, work together, and make a big difference in community.
United to Learn is just a great resource for a lot of those school populations that don't readily have resources. So please invest in United to Learn because they invest in the children that need it the most.
So clearly our model is very student-centered. They have to be at the core of everything that we think about, but we also pride ourselves on being very collaborative, but truly collaborative. So that means we are absolutely unapologetic about wanting to understand the investment objectives of every partner involved. As Drex alluded to, I spent a lot of time at Goldman as a banker and then running the firm's worldwide giving efforts. So I really get the importance of business principles. In that role, when I was choosing a nonprofit investment or trying to select the right volunteer opportunities for our employees, of course, I wanted the firm to have an impact on individuals and that organization, but I was also thinking about the firm and our employees and the greater community in which we were working. I'm a firm believer that you cannot be a great corporate citizen without furthering your own business impact. So that means you have to understand what your employees need, what their passions are, and how you can match those passions with what a community might need. So within United to Learn, when we take on a corporate partner, we too want to ask those questions. What are your community engagement objectives? What are your community engagement parameters? Because you may not have 24/7 to be on the campus every week. And then of course, what are your expected returns? So you might be interested in providing some junior team members leadership opportunities by sitting on a local campus advisory board. Or you may be looking, like Rafael mentioned in the video, for some team building opportunities and spending some weekend mornings creating outdoor learning spaces. But we want to make sure that we are aligning how we are engaging you with exactly what your company needs. So we get it. Our students have no time to waste. Our teachers have no time to waste. From extreme poverty and reckoning with these decades of systemic inequities and alarming gaps in achievement, and now the exacerbated challenges of COVID that we are feeling, the urgency is now. So we do know that we want to make the most of your time with us, the most of your investments, whether that be of money or your tremendous talent to create a strong return for our city. And as you heard in the video, everything that we are thinking about is absolutely aligned with that post-secondary credentialed workforce, very similar to how Drex was speaking about the importance of what is happening with Dallas Thrives. You know, our budget is roughly $50,000 per campus. Honestly, it's not even $100 per student. But we know that with every additional third grader who is set on a college-ready pace, we have increased their lifetime earnings by $1 million. And CPAL would also tell me that they are simultaneously breaking the cycle of poverty for their future families and eliminating an estimated societal cost of $1.6 million. So from not quite $100 a kiddo to a positive swing of $2.6 million for every third grader we have the privilege of getting to know, and you can have the privilege of getting to know. Well, I think that we'd all agree that's probably a pretty fair return on our investments. But I think I'd love for you to hear from a few other guys other than myself. So for a fuller discussion of what we are doing, I want to turn it to Miguel Solis. Many of you know him as our board of trustees with the Dallas ISD district. But in addition to that, he has been kind enough to lend his leadership to United to Learn as well in recently joining our board. Thank you, Miguel, so much for being here. Along with him, we are pleased to welcome Dan Healy, founder and CEO of Civitas Capital. Dan and his wife, Betsy, have 2 children who are currently attending Dallas ISD schools, and they also happen to be a very good neighbor to Foster Elementary. And Dan actually has translated his passion into, as you saw, bringing his colleagues along on a quest to close the resource gaps at Foster Elementary and be a part of their motto: work hard, get smart, and graduate from college. And then finally, Principal Burak of Cigarroa Elementary. And I must say, when I think of Cigarroa, it just makes me smile. I just light up at the thought of what is happening on that campus. And while at Cigarroa, Principal Burak has absolutely embraced his United to Learn school liaison, his partner in Parish Episcopal School, and his corporate partner in Vizient to make many wonderful things happen, not only for the students and families of Cigarroa, but quite honestly for our entire community in their interaction. So we are fortunate to share in his vision of advancing excellence from a very student-centered community asset mindset. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Miguel. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Abby, and thank you to the entire United to Learn team and all the participants that have joined us today to learn really about how companies and community groups can help in a meaningful way in Dallas ISD. And before we go any further, I've got to say, we're living in a very crazy time right now, and people in Dallas ISD are having to deal with all sorts of things. If it wasn't already enough to have to work in conditions where, our schools, despite all the progress that we've made from a statewide funding standpoint, still are underfunded schools where our kids are, dealing with, poverty, and in some cases, abject poverty on a day-to-day basis, and educators then having to try to, as best they can, support those students in more ways than one. And then, we see, due to COVID, this digital divide that has become much more glaring. There's just a host of things that our school system has to deal with, and now because of COVID is having to deal with. And so the fact that there are a good amount of people on a call this morning to talk about how they can figure out a way to, step up and help in a meaningful way, it really warms my heart. So thank you all for being here. And on that note, actually, before I jump to my first question, Principal Burak, I actually want to let everybody know that if you have a question that you want our panelists to answer, at the bottom of your screen, you're going to see 2 functions. There's a chat function and there's a Q&A function. I'd ask, if you have a question throughout the course of this time, plug into the Q&A function the question that you'd like to ask. And my goal is to try to get to as many of those questions as I possibly can. But starting the conversation now, Principal Burak, let me first say thank you for what you do on a daily basis for our students. Cigarroa is a shining gem in District 8. I am now, last Thursday was my last school board meeting. And so as best I can, I'm trying to circle back with all of the principals in District 8 and tell them thank you. So please allow me to convey my thanks to you for everything you do for our kids. But help us and help our participants just understand, what does school actually look like right now at this very moment? What does it look like right now, so that they have a better understanding of what the need actually may be?
Yes, thanks, Miguel, and thank you for your service to our community for so many years. So what does school look like right now? Boy, every year has its challenges for sure. We thought maybe none more than last year with the tornado that came through and the house fire that we dealt with, and then COVID. But right now, school looks a lot different than it has in the past, for sure. When you think of just normal things that should be pretty easy have become complicated. For instance, just arrival, bringing in the 550 students in our community into our building each day has become, quite a challenge in terms of, organizing spaces where students are spread out, and, we have signage posted, and we're able to take temperatures and make sure our kids are safe. Basically taking attendance for our students who are at-home learners and those on campus as well. And then, of course, lesson planning. In order to close the achievement gap, we need high-quality lessons planned by our teachers who are trying to engage kids and differentiate instruction for students that are at home with poor connectivity, or trying to get hotspots or internet, and as well as engaging our students who are in front of them as well. So things are a lot different. Things are challenging. Our teachers are tired. They're working, honestly, 7 days a week, probably 12 hours a day with these lesson plans and whatnot, learning new digital platforms to keep our students motivated as well. But with that, there's just been such a growth mindset from our teachers. There's been resiliency and determination to close those gaps. So although we face many challenges, we have a lot of support. Our district has supported us well, and our community. I'll tell you, Miguel, when I watched that video, like, that is not just some video, that's us. Like, that's our community. And then all of those things are real. I see Foster Elementary School down the street. I see our staff and students being supported during the tornado and different drives that United to Learn has done to beautify our campuses. And it brings tears to my eyes to know that we've had such great community support from businesses and United to Learn.
And one of the things that I've found to be really interesting and unique about United to Learn, it's actually two things. The first thing is there are a lot of people in our community, including companies, that want to do good for our kids. But oftentimes when they try to figure out how to do that good, they can get mired down in sort of, the bureaucracy that is a very large system like Dallas ISD. We have a phenomenal volunteers and partnership office within DISD at central staff. But the fact of the matter is that it's a very small office. And so oftentimes you can have all of these people wanting to do good, but that good may not ultimately translate into results for schools. So the first thing that I found to be really interesting and unique about United to Learn is they sort of serve as that intermediary to try to help more people do good and get you directly connected to campuses that they work with. The second thing that I found to be interesting is that they actually understand the strategic vision and plan and goals of the district and have tried to figure out a way to tailor what they help companies do, also help the academic achievement of the schools that they partner with. So can you explain a little bit more, if a company wants to, or when a company goes and gets with United to Learn and comes to Cigarroa, what does it actually look like for them to do work with you all, and what type of progress has actually been made at the school?
Yeah, that's a great question. So first of all, United to Learn really channels the resources. Like you said, they're aligned with the goals of the district. So I could speak to a number of things that they've done, and then also the impact on our school results as a result of their work. So first of all, United to Learn has been with Cigarroa for, I think, 5 or 6 years now. And I remember just being an instructional coach or assistant principal at Foster Elementary School when we got involved with them through Momentous, where when social emotional learning was coming to the forefront of how important it was for our community, we partnered with them, and we learned about that brain research that was talked about in the video, and we implemented that 100% from day one, with morning meetings and closing circles and teaching our students how to cope with stress on a daily basis. And our teachers were trained with 4 other schools. And then for years after that, year after year, more and more schools were trained in the best practices of social emotional learning. We continue to implement those practices on our campus now. And, the impact of just that piece right there has led us to like 0 referrals for 2 years in a row. We have so few discipline issues. We have students who have experienced trauma, but we've learned as staff how to intercede and help those students cope. It's been just absolutely tremendous. Just that one piece of social emotional learning. They provided resources for our calm down corners and so much more. And then also the learning environment. Like when our kids come into our school, they are so proud of our space because it's a beautiful space. Our students come in and they do morning announcements at our front office that's been completely renovated through the community campus days that are funded by United to Learn, and also the volunteers that pour in to renovate those spaces. They're so proud. We're the Cowboys, we're the Cigarroa Cowboys, and we have that cowboy theme with the cow curtains and just great decor. We have a conference room that was very sterile where we held arts for our parents for many years, but was completely renovated. Parish Episcopal School came in like a swarm of bees one day. Like the principal came in with his team and they painted that space and brought in all new furniture. And it's such a beautiful space to hold meetings and conferences for different folks that come in. And as you walk the hallways, you see just murals that have been painted, and our students are just so proud of the great environment that has been created due to the resources and the community campus days and the volunteers that have poured into our school over the last number of years. And then lastly, and most importantly, is our literacy scores. I know the previous principal, I've been here 4 years now, he did a great job in restoring the culture of this school that was struggling when he got there. And but the reading scores were still very low when I arrived. We're at 9% of our students for reading at grade level. We're now at 57% in just a few short years, turning that around. Our MAP scores just came in, and every single grade level is reading at or above grade level, which we're so proud of the work. And that could not have been done without United to Learn, because they have funded us in so many ways to get us literacy resources, professional development around our writing. Our writing scores are among the top in the district now, due to the professional development that they provided for more than 20 of our teachers to go to. And we brought that back to the campus for the last couple of years and just implemented a really strong writing plan. I'm getting excited. Sorry, Miguel. I'm just going, man. I could go for hours on this, right? But I'll wrap up this last piece real quick on, our partners like KPMG and Vizient have poured hundreds and hundreds of books into our students' hands before the winter break or summer break to make sure our kids are reading. They provide coats for our kids, so they're focused on not being cold in the wintertime, but be able to focus on what's most important, which is their academics. So the community partnerships with the private schools, the businesses that continue to pour into our communities with technology or books or basic needs has been instrumental, and our building looks beautiful because of the work and support we've had from United to Learn. And honestly, we've had the best scores last ACP scores last winter, were the best scores in school history, and we're right on target to keep up that momentum despite not being in the classroom last spring.
Yeah, and before I go to my good friend Dan Healy, because I certainly don't want him to think that I've forgotten about it, but you've got me fired up, Principal Burak. I've actually got one other quick question for you. COVID isn't the first major disaster that you all have had to deal with, and that United to Learn also helped you navigate through. You guys are actually, for people that are not aware of where Cigarroa is, it's very, very close to the direct path that was the tornado I guess it was last year. So what role did United to Learn play with you all in trying to recover from the tornado?
Yeah, you're gonna make me cry thinking about this, Miguel, because it was.
I'm trying to. I don't know if you realize this. I'm trying to make you cry.
I know. Like last October when that tornado rolled through, man, it was devastating. I'll just be honest. It was devastating. But the work that the community outreach during that time was like nothing I'd ever seen before. So just quick anecdote, our school was relocated to a field house with 2 other schools to have to host school within a 24-hour period without being able to go into our building to get one resource. United to Learn mobilized multiple private schools, purchased whatever we needed to be able to hold school in a field house, not just our school, but two other schools as well. So over 1,500 school students moving to a field house. They purchased rugs as our kids were sitting around the narrow hallways that go around a field house from pre-K through second grade. They were sitting on the floor with us late in the evening, preparing lanyards for the students so nobody got lost that day. There was food and volunteers swarming everywhere. And even after the tornado, the amount of supplies for our families, because our families, the school's not just in the neighborhood, all the houses and the apartments are as well. So long after we were able to come back and hold school in the schoolhouse, United to Learn continued to pour in clothes, diapers, food, whatever our families needed, gift cards, and at a moment's notice, whatever we needed, you know, our United to Learn liaison, Jody Schwartzwalder, was at our side on our campus, providing and connecting us with whatever we needed to make sure our families and honestly our staff was supported, not just with the materials, but also with knowing that they were loved and cared for. Getting emotional during that time because it was a struggle. It was a struggle. And I always say, like, there's no way we could do this work without United to Learn and the business partners and the local churches and the private schools that support us. So I'll stop now before I start the waterworks.
Well, but I think it's also important for people to realize that, like, it is from a district standpoint, when the tornado hit, I mean, Cigarroa wasn't the only school that was impacted. I mean, you had a host of schools, some of them which don't even exist anymore because of the damage done by the tornado. And so imagine being, you know, a central office that then has all of these people that want to do good and want to help. It can be overwhelming. And so being able to have an organization like United to Learn serve as the intermediary and help us with a whole host of schools that they're involved with, that was also extremely, extremely helpful, which now brings me to my good friend, Dan Healy. And before I ask my question to Dan, I want to remind everybody who's a participant right now, if you want to ask a question, make sure to drop your question in the Q&A function right here at the bottom of the screen. Dan, Civitas is a company that I have grown to love because you lead it, because you have great employees, but also because you guys are community oriented. And so my first question to you is, talk to me a little bit about why community involvement matters to Civitas before I even ask you about United to Learn.
Sure, Miguel, thanks. And thanks everyone at United to Learn for having me here. In a nutshell, when Rafael and Chia and I founded this company a little more than 10 years ago, it was with that intent. You know, we had both had experiences in the workplace that weren't particularly values driven or community oriented, and we wanted to create something where that was the foundation. And I'm frankly very proud that that's what we've done.
And so you decided along with your partner and your team to become engaged in the community and specifically to get engaged in DISD. You know, I know Rafael Anchia, current state representative, but also former Dallas ISD trustee. You know, I'm sure that in that conversation that came up, and perhaps that like a way to give back might be to give back to Dallas schools. Can you talk to us a little bit more about how you ultimately came to the decision that that's where you were going to engage your time, and then also what led you to United to Learn?
Sure. So you're correct. You know, Rafael, obviously, for those that don't know him, he previously served on the ISD Board of Trustees before serving in the legislature, and you know continues to be very involved there, and certainly has been a driving force in kind of developing the culture of our firm generally. And so one of the kind of outcomes there was we didn't just assume, we asked everyone. You know, we surveyed more than once our whole team, and you know the answer that we got pretty overwhelmingly was that education was the area that the team felt like we should focus our efforts as a firm in terms of community engagement. And that frankly led pretty quickly to United to Learn as the conduit to do that. Just as you've been just discussing with Principal Burak, we've had a similar experience, or we've had that experience really, in that we didn't have to try very hard to kind of come up with how we could help. We just had to make ourselves available, and there were, a number of different kind of tracks. We've participated in community campus days, which we can talk a little bit more about because I'm pretty passionate about those. But I guess United to Learn made it very easy for us to not only get involved, but to something very important to me, to be able to measure the impact of what we're doing. The numbers here are impressive.
So I want to talk about the process of ultimately becoming involved with United to Learn, and then how they sort of took your desire to want to do good, and then actually turn it into reality. Because we've got participants I know that are watching this that are wondering, like, okay, Dan, you've convinced me this is the right step to take. But then once I jump in, what does the process actually look like? So I do want to talk to you a little bit about Foster in particular, but let's just move away from Foster for a second and the actual process that you guys have gone through to ultimately then get involved. What does that look like for a company that wants to jump into this?
Sure. So we're a small company. We have about 40 employees. Our head of people experience, Sonia Milton, is also the head of what we call our culture and activities team. And a big part of our culture is community engagement. So she is the kind of point person to liaise with United to Learn. And when we were getting involved at first, kind of setting it up, as I mentioned, there were a range of ways that we could get involved. But, we're a real estate investment company, and we understand that the physical environment, the built environment, makes critical differences in the experience of people. No matter whether you're talking about a school or a building or any kind of real property or physical environment. And so the idea of us showing up to make a measurable difference by doing physical work that is based on research that shows that if you do this kind of physical work and you add this messaging and you contribute to an environment where the studies have shown impacts outcomes materially, that was a pretty natural fit for us.
And so Foster Elementary ultimately is a school that you, again, another District 8 school. And so let me, take a point of personal privilege and say thank you for, supporting the kids in the district that I represented. But Foster Elementary, did you all choose that school, or was that something that United to Learn chose for you? I know that you live not too far from Foster.
Yeah, I was selfish about that. I chose that school. Betsy and I, my wife Betsy and I, walk and bike by it like every day. We know, folks who, have kids there, and it's something that we just coincidentally had talked about. What could we organize something in the neighborhood, or what could we do? Because we knew, as the video talked about, and Foster certainly isn't alone, that it's under-resourced. That's just the reality. And so until there's a systemic fix for that problem, where the kinds of training and resources and are provided, through the system itself, and more at scale, it falls to the community. It falls to companies like ours, and people in the neighborhood, and everyone else to kind of step up and help fill those gaps. And frankly, I liked the idea of doing that with the school that was 2 blocks from my house, because I can see it regularly and sort of check in.
That's awesome. I actually want to turn really quickly to Abby. And Abby, I've got a question, because Dan, as he explained sort of the technical process that Civitas went through to ultimately be connected to do the specific work that they did, and actually, if you were paying attention in the video, you guys would have seen Dan and Rafael and some of the work that they were doing. But Abby, talk to a company right now who doesn't know what they want to do, but they want to help. What are specific ways, some specific examples of things that they can do that may be different than what Dan and Principal Burak mentioned?
Sure. Well, we would begin with a conversation similar to Dan was alluding to having a conversation with Ms. Milton on his staff in terms of who is a representative who can help us understand better what is the makeup of the employees, what kind of time do they have to commit, and what type of investment, financial investment would they want to make in a campus as well. And then we would talk through some thought starters. That's what we call sort of our menu of opportunities. Some ideas are things like contributing to virtual career days. So we have had to take all of our programming, right, almost all of our programming to a digital platform. And so today, all of our tutoring can happen through a virtual platform, and also sharing out great videos that can be inspiring to learn more about individual professions are really great. We've set up a YouTube channel that anyone can go and take a look at to kind of get a glimpse of what I'm talking about. And then what we find is when we start with something like that, it leads to the next piece, similar to what Dan and Principal Burak were alluding to. So if we are talking to students about virtual career days, it might also make sense then to have a company come through and help line the halls with more college collateral that is, again, reinforcing the potential of our students. We really do have many company employees who want to see more leadership development within their own staffs. And so it's really great to give them the opportunity to sit on the site-based decision-making boards of each one of our campuses so that they can see a holistic view of the entire school. And then as a campus gets involved in something like a community campus day, that's not a simple one and done engagement. And they can see their investment in teacher training from the prior months that then might, so if it's in the area of SEL, they might then spend their community campus day creating mindfulness corners in every single classroom so that that training can be really backed up by real resources. So that's sort of the process and the ways that we see many of our corporations involved today. One of the ones too that we've sort of had to adapt a little bit is that companies need to do sometimes things on their own campuses. So if that is leading a resource drive at their office, and then today we've had to take a lot of those resource drives online, and they may share out a wish list, if you will, of the necessary remaining resources on a campus. And then when they deliver the resources back to the campus, not only do they personally get to understand and feel the gratitude of our educators, but they might also spend and share a meal with the staff by sponsoring a staff appreciation event. And I would echo all of what Principal Burak is saying. Our teachers are working around the clock, and it's really gratifying to be able to bring in a well-deserved special meal and treat for them.
Thanks for that, Abby. So we're actually right on time for a few minutes of question and answers. So if you have a question that you want to ask any of the panelists, including myself, you can feel free to drop that question directly into the Q&A function down at the bottom. And we've actually got a couple questions. So, one is around a comment that Dan made a little earlier, and it's something that I say pretty frequently as well. And that's until we have a systemic fix to a host of, I'm going to add some color to this, to a host of issues, it falls to the community to ultimately plug in the gap. Abby, let me maybe start with you, and then we'll get everybody's thoughts on this. Does United to Learn and/or its partners do anything to try to work for that systemic fix? And how would United to Learn even define what the systemic fix might look like?
We believe that our North Star metric of targeting third grade literacy achievement is getting right at eradicating systemic inequities. We know that once a third grader is on a college-ready pace, they are 3 times more likely to go on to college, and that is clearly stopping the cycle of poverty that has been, unfortunately, the expected life of our students. So we know that right there, that is truly impacting our community for the long haul. We also think that in our work, it is about embracing our public school systems and reshaping the narratives of what is happening in our public schools. And I'll tell you, that's one of the reasons I love the campus leadership across our 47 Dallas ISD partner schools, because they are right there in it with us. We know that in the professional development training that we are offering, that it is talking to how do we translate a very asset-minded or asset-focused mindset to our educators and to our students, especially as we think about what the climate has been in the last several months. It's been tough to be a Black student, a student of color, listening to what is happening and playing out in the media. And we want our students to walk the halls of schools that not only value education, but where they can see themselves. And I hear teachers go to the extent to ensure that identity and belonging and critical analysis and the value of what their culture brings to the table and how that will help them be successful college graduates. And even if I think about what are the campus improvements that we are making, that is getting to reshaping that narrative so that those crazy statistics that we talked about, where only 1/3 or 2/3 of students of color are achieving college attainment, that is not an expectation. And that idea is completely eliminated from the conversation.
Principal Burak or Dan, would you like to add anything to that?
I certainly can. So when I think about district goals around SEL, I know that our school district does have a strong department for social emotional learning, and they have provided great training for our staff. But United to Learn, with their support, they take it to the next level and they provide the additional resources that we need to carry out that training as well. So it's not and also the district provides it for all of the campuses. United to Learn is focused on provided more in-depth training for specific campuses, so we can take it to the next level. When I think of reading as well, like the reading initiatives, of course, through House Bill 3, we've gotten some great training, started to get some great training on teaching reading for our kinder through third grade students across the state. We focused on that on our campus. The district has provided a strong early learning department in order to have boots on the ground here to make sure that theory is being implemented and carried out. And then you have United to Learn that partners along with the district, along with that goal, to provide additional training, additional resources to make sure that we have everything we need in order to be successful. So I really see a strong partnership. And when you talk about a systemic fix, it comes down to personnel, training, resources, and the more we can have and the more we can get that's aligned, the more impactful we can be, and we can do it quickly.
Dan, did you want to jump in on this? And then Drex, I'd love your thoughts too, from a chamber's perspective, if you'd like to share them.
Yeah, I would just add that, to Principal Burak's point here, the United to Learn is about engagement, and a big part, in my view, of what has been lost over the last decades in terms of the systemic inequity is that if you didn't have kids in the district, or you weren't sort of interacting in some way with the ISD regularly, it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. And so the pillars that were described in the video, particularly reaching out to private schools, reaching out to companies, and sort of reminding everybody that the school district is part of an integrated system that creates our workforce, that creates that heavily influences our society generally. And so if it's under-resourced and kind of left behind and out of mind, it doesn't just affect the kids at Foster Elementary while they're at Foster Elementary. It affects everyone. And we early in the program, Abby referenced a $100 investment, resulting in a couple $1 million of savings over the lifetime. I mean, that's an almost ridiculous statistic, when you think about it. So the role that United to Learn is playing in kind of bringing these parties together to work together for the good of the district as a system and an institution in our city and our society is, in my opinion, as important as the role it's like that we're playing at a particular campus on a particular day.
Drex, your thoughts?
I love what Dan said, and I think the phrase is "it takes a village," right? And I think recognizing that our schools are part of that village, and that we are part of that village, and we need to find ways to intersect with purpose and create sort of new outcomes. I think is really important and a thing to focus on. That sounds really aspirational in a lot of ways. And what I love about United to Learn is they help sort of take that broad, mandate and turn it into like real actionable ways for you to plug in. And so, it may look different at Foster, to Dan's point, than it looks at Carr in West Dallas. I don't know if Carr's one of your schools, but I think it is. And thinking about how those play together, and where you as an organization want to plug in, or where other organizations want to plug in, I think it's around creating the right stew to create different outcomes, right? And so anyway, that's the thing that gets me excited at the end of the day about the work going forward is, we're going to try something new in ways that sort of seem simple. They may not be to Carol and Abby, like, they're doing yeoman's work behind the scenes. But we want to make sure we're enabling and empowering, great principals like, Mr. Burak to move outcomes for our young people. And for us to feel really good that we are doing our part in our communities to make that happen.
Actually got a few more questions. And again, if you've got one, feel free to drop it in the Q&A. So the next one is, my company wants to help, but we're not sure that we can invest the time it seems to perhaps require to go deep in a school. Are there ways to donate to United to Learn? And if so, how?
I'll take it. So of course there are, and you can go to our website, but you can also contact myself or our Chief Advancement Officer, and you can find Megan Hewitt's information on our website. And I would tell you that if you are worried about time, we can still talk. I understand that, working at Goldman, this meant, a workforce that was truly working 80 hours a week. And somehow we were still able to find opportunities for companies to stay, for us as a company to stay connected. And we at United to Learn also recognize that. So whether it is us being able to just share the journey of a campus with you, on a monthly basis or a bi-monthly basis, there are ways to stay connected and to feel that you are more a part of the progress that is being made, not only across one of our 47 Dallas ISD partners, but across the district as a whole.
Yeah, and Dan, I'd like to hear from you too. So what's sort of the time commitment that Civitas is committed to foster?
There's a pretty wide range, actually. Community Campus Day is basically a full day on a weekend, usually, where United to Learn plans, essentially small capital projects at the school. And, we show up with a team of, anywhere from kind of 5 to 20 of our employees. And we just do that work, and it's fun. It's from my perspective as a leader in the firm, it's a time for us to kind of bond and do something fun outside of the office context. And particularly in COVID, this last one that we just did was the first time that several of us had seen each other for 6 months. So it's very valuable in that regard. But we're also sponsoring the soccer team, which takes zero time. They needed some equipment, jerseys, etc. And we're asking about donations. It's very specific. It's something where Frankly, I'm really looking forward to getting and framing a Foster soccer jersey that has my firm's logo on the front of it. I mean, that's going to be very cool. And that took a minimal financial investment and zero time, and I think will have an impact on those kids.
Awesome. So we've actually got time for one final question before I turn it over to Megan. And so I'll actually direct this question to Abby. Abby, this question comes from Lisa Tran. How does United to Learn work with organizations like the Dallas Education Foundation or various friends of groups that are supporting specific school campuses?
Sure. So United to Learn is last dollar in. That's how we think about ourselves. We know that gaps exist, and we know that good stuff is happening. Good stuff is happening on the campus of Cigarroa. And if it's already there, we're not coming in to duplicate. We have a great relationship with the district and with our campuses, and we ensure that we have conversations, regularly scheduled conversations and relationships from the superintendent's office through middle management across the executive directors who oversee. We work with 4 different executive directors across Dallas ISD, and we meet with them regularly. And then, of course, our school liaisons and our staff is connected to each one of the 47 schools, and we speak very specifically about what resources are already there. So we understand that it does take a village, but it takes a coordinated village. And we know that there's some really awesome stuff happening in our community. One quick example would be Reading Partners is on many of our campuses. Well, we want Reading Partners to be very successful. Principal Burak needs Reading Partners to be very successful. So we will work with our private partner in Parish Episcopal in driving volunteers to that effort. We want to make what is there even better. Recently, and I actually sit on the board of the Dallas Education Foundation. So again, we are very connected in understanding what our missions are, so that there truly is a coordinated effort. And we actually recently had the opportunity to co-invest alongside the Dallas Education Foundation to provide a resource for 6 of our campuses around additional literacy intervention software. So it's through a lot of relationship talking and conversations, but absolutely we want to be in coordination with all of what's happening across Dallas ISD.
And with that, I want to thank our panelists, each of you, for what you do on a daily basis for our community, and specifically the way that you support United to Learn. And I want to remind people that this work is absolutely needed now. It was needed before, but with everything that our district is going through, there's no more time to remain on the sidelines. Now is the time to get in. Now is the time to make an impact in the life of a student. And let me remind you about the value proposition of United to Learn. First, access to Dallas ISD in an efficient way that gets you right to the heart of the issue that you want to have an impact on. Equity. 90% of students in United to Learn schools are children who have significant need. And so you will be able to help close these inequity gaps. And then lastly, impact. United to Learn is doing work that is having a direct impact on student achievement, which ultimately correlates to positive life outcomes. So thank you, United to Learn, for what you do. And I encourage all of the participants, if you can, get involved with United to Learn. And with that, I want to pass it over now to the Chief Advancement Officer of United to Learn, Megan Hewitt. I think we have you on mute, Megan.
Thank you, Miguel. Thanks for that too. And thank you everyone for coming today. So this past year has been incredibly challenging for our partner schools. In one school year, students have experienced tornadoes, they've experienced a pandemic and heightened racial tensions across our community, responding to these recent heinous acts of injustice. But while the past year has been difficult, for our team at United to Learn, it's also been filled with hope and with resilience, because we have seen the best of our community come together to support our Dallas ISD partner schools. And this is exemplified by all of you coming here today, because clearly you care. We believe in the promise of our city's young learners. We believe in the power of our community to affect change. And we believe that the investment we're making in our schools is paying off. So for those of you today who are looking to get more engaged with Dallas ISD and interested in perhaps working with United to Learn, there are 3 ways you can get involved. The first is that we are looking for a partner school, a partner organization for each of our 47 citywide schools to work throughout the year with the school the way that that Cigarroa works with Foster, that Cigarroa works with Civitas, or with Vizient, and the way that Foster works with Vizient. And the second is that you can sponsor key events throughout the year. The third is that you can engage your team as volunteers. And there are ways to do this both virtually, because we know that many organizations are not sending people out physically to volunteer these days. There are also ways to do this in socially distanced manners through completing these community campus day projects like everyone has mentioned today. So we'll follow up with everyone who's participated today and provide more information on how you can get plugged in if you're interested in being plugged in. Thank you all for being here today, and thank you for everything that you do in your respective roles to make our community better.